The French have a very strong idea of France, which is all about power, rising sun, glory, culture, elegance, love, food, the best.
Yes.
They are the best in their opinion. And I'm one of those bad person who thinks talent is everywhere. I was a rebellious child,
yes.
And everything started like this. I was born in that arrondissement called the 6th,
yes.
which is Saint-Germain-des-Prés. The first people I saw when I was deciding to have a coffee, Giacometti, Picasso, Antonin Artaud, Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir. These people are there every single day.
And you're having coffee there?
Yes.
What were these people really like as people?
They were different, people of that scale of
yes.
talent are not acting normally. They are strange faces often. They have a peculiar way to address to other people. Some are spoiled because they are already so famous. They have to protect themselves. They have to act so that everyone is not going to try to have coffee with them.
Clear.
It's a symbol, but that's the way people react when they are absolutely in the assault of a crowd.
Yes.
They suffer, they physically suffer. It's too much attention. You always hear, long after these people become famous, how many of them destroyed enormous parts of their work by conviction it was not good enough to stay. It's the opposite of that stupid self-satisfaction that is killing so many people. Some have talent, but they are quickly satisfied with their idea about themselves. Someone said nice things about me to a very, very interesting person of the time, who was working for a company where the things you could buy in their shops were the cheapest in the country. So we had to find exciting gifts for almost no money. So I was the mean, dangerous woman who installs snobism in Prisonique. And what happened, of course, because in sociology everything is so strange and fragile, was that the bourgeois would rush into Prisonique because what they found there was so funny and so charming and so cheap, it became a snobism. And that's how it ended.
When did your relationship start with the luxury people, like the Lagerfelds and all these sorts of crazy
Very early. Lagerfeld I met in '68 at a show, and he talked to me, which is not very common in an exhibition. It was at Art Décoratif.
Yes.
And he said, "Do you always dress like this?" And I said, a bit surprised. And I invited him for dinner. I liked him enormously. Magazine, the
Yes.
messenger,
Yes.
to the stylist,
Yes.
to fashion.
Yes.
I was very involved for 2 years in a company called creator and industrial.
Yes.
This man asked me to be like the art director of a new venture where we would federate designers and industrialists, very powerful ones.
Yes.
Because our theory was that if you can design a dress, you probably can design eyewear and luggage. At the time it was really very bizarre.
Yes.
Very bizarre. And now sometimes I see people who met me in the 70s.
Yes.
And who say we thought all that was completely crazy and was going to end very sadly. And it did. We were giving these people much too much money. We didn't have enough power
Yes.
to make them known so quickly. So their name is Issey Miyake, Castelbajac, Thierry Mugler, all these people.
What was the 80s like for you?
Materials I used were so new and strange for most people that people were interested to know more about what I was doing. I was intriguing people. Then my friend, the one I did, creator and industriel, invited me to do Saint Laurent stores in America. And I started to know a lot of interesting people in New York. And my name was given to these young men who had been the owner of Studio 54.
Yes.
And the first thing they did when they went out of jail was to call me and to ask me to do a hotel for them. They said the scene is not going to be in nightclubs anymore, the scene is going to happen in hotels. Morgan was absolutely the first.
Yes.
Like my office in Paris, but absolutely the first to look precious and poor, detailed and empty,
No.
breaking all the rules,
Yes.
not being the prisoner of any of these commercial ideas about comfort, luxury, etc. And instead of having a charming room, I decided I will use Mapplethorpe photographs
Oh my
for the
God.
wall. And I will have all shades of beige and grays and off-white. And I was dreaming, I was in a state of excitement. I believed I was going to do something very, very new. And sometimes you dream and nothing of what you dream happens.
Yes.
And in my case, everything happened, starting with Morgan. But this idea of fashion victim is very American. You know why? Exactly for the eternal same reason. It's because they follow a recipe. And this is never a good way to have style, because there is no recipe. And this is exactly why it's so precious. You said something which is the key of the conversation. Either you are at ease and you can have style just by yourself, or you are terrified by la faute de goût,
Which is?
the mistake that makes you look awful and stupid.
Do you consider yourself an artist or a designer? Honestly.
Neither. I
What?
think I'm an adventurer. I am someone who wants to change things, who arrives with some freedom and some imagination about images that I want to propose.
How do you know that people have the spirit that is enough to do more, to be great?
You know, it's a mix also. It has very much to do with who they are inside.
Yeah.
Do they have a very strong nature? Can they take a terrible risk? Can they take a terrible failure? Can they accept that the major lady on earth, who may be the one who writes in Herald Tribune, decides your collection is very poor?
Yes.
And what happens in your house because you didn't make it that time? How can you take all these shocks?
Yes.
How can you live without a lot of money? How can you wait for things to come to you? Not being too impatient, not selling your name partly or not completely. It's as important as talent. I like to make surprises. I like to introduce in my work things you never see at first glance when you come in.
Yes.
It's so quiet, it's so empty sometimes, it's so peaceful and subtle, I hope, that you don't see. And a writer said that to me. She said, I'm in your room since a few days, I don't know anything about your work. I'm a writer, I'm finishing my book. And it took me 4 days to discover that every pillow design in the sense of pattern was different. It took me a week to understand there was a pattern on the rug because it's almost unseen and you discover things little by little. And you know, it's ideal to hear that for me because it has a lot to do with that very careful work where I like not to create any shock or any unbelievable grand decision that makes the room fragile and probably that makes the room easy to date very quickly.
Would you do a hamburger restaurant?
Of course.
I
have no limits. You know, I did, as you noticed, I did the Concorde, but now I'm working for Bazar de l'Hôtel de Ville, which is a department store that sells bits and pieces for do-it-yourself and things like this that are intensely practical and not expensive.